Here's the thing. We as women definitely cannot resist the bad boy. Why? Because he comes in with confidence. All right. He comes in saying things. You could tell he has an air of understanding women to a certain extent. He speaks womenese. That's what I call it. He's familiar with women, and you can tell by his demeanor that he's not just talking to you. Okay. He's got a roster, and women like men that are desired by other women. I don't care what a woman says. If a man is desired by other women, he's automatically more attractive. Let's be real. Also, bad boys have the air of being able to protect, like they're going to fight, that they're going to be able to, if something was to go down, they got your back. They're going to be able to make sure that you are safe. There's a sense of safety that a woman feels. And lastly, bad boys are not stunting you, okay? You know they've got other women, and that is what makes them more appealing. They're not tripping on you.
Women love toxic men and they'll never admit it, but it's the truth. Every single time you hear about a girl getting back with her ex-boyfriend, it's always, oh, she's back with her asshole toxic ex. It's never, oh, she's back with her sweetheart nice guy ex-boyfriend. Never. I used to think the saying nice guys finish last was a lie, but it is 100% the truth. The sad reality is if you're too nice of a guy, you treat her well, you never fight, you let her walk all over you, she's going to get bored and move on. I was watching the new Sydney Sweeney movie, and the Glenn Powell guy asked her, why did you break up with him? He seems like a great guy. And she said, because we never fought. As soon as she said that line, I'm like, that is the most real thing I've ever heard.
I'm pretty sure I made this video before, but we're going to run it back. We're going to run it back, all right? So here is exactly why, women love toxic dudes. They love the bad boys. I know a lot of you guys have those questions like, oh my God, why do they like the toxic dudes? Why do they like the bad boys? Blah, blah, blah. We all have those questions and stuff like that. But in reality, right, when you're actually like in your masculine and you are literally doing everything that you tell yourself you're going to do and you're being the best version of yourself and you don't care about outcomes and you're just confident in yourself, you're going to have a not giving a fuck aura because you know what you give a fuck about. For example, let's say you're in shape and you're running a business. You give a fuck about what you eat, working out, prioritizing your sleep, right? Doing what you say you're going to do, finishing probably like a to-do list, scaling your business. Those are your priorities, right? So anything that falls outside of that, you're not going to prioritize. So a lot of times that gives you an air of like, you're just really himothy. That gives you an air of not giving a fuck, right? So like if a chick is like, hey, like the only time I have available is Saturday, and you just leave her on red or whatever because that shit doesn't work for you because you have something going down that day, she's gonna be like, yo, is he not gonna chase me? That's another thing. Bad boys do not chase. All right, they usually have a lot of chicks. Why? Because that masculine energy that they have attracts a lot of women. Remember, masculine energy is gonna attract feminine energy. Very, very simple shit. For example, when I was really like on my what I would call quote unquote bad boy shit. I'm not really on that shit right now. I'm chilling. I'm chilling. I'm a retired whore. Okay, so when I was on my bad boy shit, I had the golds and shit like that. I was kind of emitting that energy of not giving a fuck. Listen, I didn't even count the roster because I don't even know how many slots are available. But that shit was like, yo, the shit was getting out of hand. There was just a bunch of chicks, and some of them knew each other and shit like that. So if one of them, said some shit like, oh, I'm not available this day, I was like, okay, cool. Well, there's 3 other chicks that are probably available this day. You know what I mean? So I'm going to mess with her on my off day or something like that. You see what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be like, oh my God, like, can we reschedule? Is there another time we can? Like, that's a turn off. That's that chasing energy once again. Like, bad boys do not have any fucking desperate energy. All right. They're comfortable being alone. But at the same time, like I said, they're usually dealing with other chicks, right? They're usually dealing with other chicks. And then a lot of times when you're like quote unquote toxic and you give women that emotional up and down, because for some reason women like the emotional ups and downs, the crying, the getting mad or whatever, like the dude said, like you never hear about a woman getting back with her nice guy ex. If a woman breaks up with a nice guy, she's not getting back with that motherfucker. All right, she's not. All right, unless he forces her to, because usually there's no genuine desire there. That genuine desire comes from that bad boy behavior. And a lot of times some bad boys, whether they actually are masculine or not, they have a lot of from the outside looking in, they have like hyper masculinity or whatever. They look super hyper masculine, which gives that woman like, oh my God, he's gonna protect me if anything goes down and all that other shit. You know what I mean? So that's another factor as well. But the easiest and the most important factor is the fact that you're dealing with other chicks. Like usually when I meet a chick, she'll be like, "Oh, you look like you have a lot of hoes, right?" Or some shit like that. They'll say that, but then when they meet me, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you definitely have a lot of hoes." You know what I mean? Like I'm definitely not your priority. And I play around with it, be like, "Yo, what do you mean? Like I would never do that." Kind of play around with it, but they know that they're not the only person, so they know they have to compete or whatever. Which women want to earn your affection and they want to earn your love or whatever. They don't want you to just be like, first date be like, "Hey, you want to be in a relationship?" That shit would dry her up like the Sahara Desert, bro. She might be like, I have a family emergency," like right after you say that shit. I swear to God. Right. But yeah, usually when I'm done with the chick, she's like, "You sure you don't have a girlfriend or whatever?" Like, "Oh my God, like you definitely have some other chicks or some shit like that." You know what I mean? So that just makes them want you more because women want what other, women want. It's that simple. Us guys, we're obviously different. We want a chick who's low key and bad and shit like that. We want a chick who's low key. We don't want a chick that every guy is literally after and shit like that. We don't like to compete. That's not how guys work. But listen, female nature is they're gonna compete for the same guy, right? Literally, I don't know why monogamy is even a word in today's society or it ever was a word, because at the end of the day, polygamy is always going to rule. Now, there's gonna be a lot of attempted monogamy and shit like that, but in reality, it's really just the bad boys. They might be smashing a wife on the side. They might be smashing someone in a relationship on the side. All that shit, like it is what it is, right? But like I said, with the toxic energy and shit like that, usually what's seen as toxic is really like even toxic masculinity is really just masculine behavior, right? Like you standing on business, you doing what you said you would do, but you also go against a lot of societal norms when you're a quote unquote bad boy. Like you don't give the flowers, you're not overcompensating by being nice, you're just being, straightforward, you're being masculine. And when a woman's, feminine and maybe she's been in her masculine all day at work, or she's always dealing with, feminine men and stuff like that, they're really going to respond well to your masculine energy. I remember I was dating this one chick, right? And she just literally was like obsessed with, like my because I was just straightforward and masculine with her. To be honest, I was just being me or whatever. And she was just like surprised at some of the shit I say, because she's like, "Yo, all these other dudes are always being so feminine and being so nice and stuff like that. It usually turns me off, all this other stuff." So yeah, man, like she was super into me and stuff like that. And she know I had other chicks. I mean, come on now, she know I had other chicks, because she all you gotta do is see the IG or see how I act or whatever. But usually, like the woman said in the video, usually like when you're a quote unquote toxic dude or bad boy or whatever, you've just been in the game long enough to understand that, woman ain't shit. Like you've been in the game to understand, long enough to understand, like, man, these hoes ain't shit type stuff. So you don't take them seriously, right? But also you're always gonna have multiple, because it's better to you're gonna know it's better to like not take them seriously, basically, right? So then that's also gonna attract chicks, because that means female nature, basically. So chicks are gonna be more open with you a lot of times too, right? They'll tell you stuff they might not tell their husband, you know what I mean, or they might not tell their future husband or their boyfriend or whatever. They'll tell you all that kind of stuff, because they obviously there's certain things that chicks won't tell their fantasies and all that other stuff. Like chicks won't tell you they want to be tied up and stuff like that. Like a lot of you guys haven't experienced that, but yeah, most chicks want to be choked and tied up and all that stuff. That's a whole other story. But like they could talk about that to the bad boy, but also you, like as a bad boy, you have more experience generally, and you have more confidence when you go on a date, and you take more risks because you don't give a fuck about the outcome. Like me, like I told you guys, I be listen. The shit I do on first dates, I don't recommend it unless you've been in the game for a minute. But yeah, I'll just, I'll meet a chick or whatever, first date, whatever, she feeling me, you know what I'm saying? You see the genuine attraction, and I might pull her hair or some shit like that, or I might grab her neck or some shit like that, because they like that shit. They like that aggressive energy, that masculine energy and stuff like that. But someone who was scared to offend would never do that shit. You see what I'm saying? Someone who's like, "Oh my God, this is my only option." Oh, well, this is my only option, guys. I gotta be careful here. Listen, right now I have a date with Bethany. I have to make sure I bring flowers, and I cannot be too mean because I want to have a second date. That's how you're gonna act, bro. But when I see Bethany, I'm be like, I'd be 30 fucking minutes late, and I'm be like, this restaurant's kind of ass. You trying to go back to my place? We'll order some food or some shit. She'll be like, what the fuck? Like, are you serious? Be like, yeah, okay, cool. And we'll run it. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, you're gonna, when you take Bethany out, like I said, you're gonna be like, "All right, Bethany, I got you these flowers. I've been planning our wedding. Is it okay if I tickle your clitoris. Like, that's what y'all be saying. Hey, listen, that's what y'all be doing on these dates and shit like that. Y'all be asking chicks to, to kiss them, and you be asking chicks if you're handsome. That shit is fucking crazy. All right, like, when you are a quote unquote toxic dude or quote unquote bad boy, you just have experience. You already know you're him. That shit's attractive. You have the confidence. You have the experience. You just walking a bitch like you're him, bro. Like, here's the thing. Like, when I pull up, like I told you, when I pull up on the first date, bro, I got the button down. You know what I'm saying? I got the swag and shit like that. You know what I mean? Everything's fitted. You feel the aura. You feel the experience. You can see the aura. Make more eye contact. All that shit. Like, you're not gonna make eye contact when you're not experienced. You're not gonna do those kind of things. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, you're not gonna take a lot of the risks. All right, because a lot of these chicks, man, they want to be thrown around and shit, and a lot of you guys are gonna be, a lot of you guys are like, well, no, I would never throw you or choke you. I'm not trying to hurt you, Suzanne. Like, that's how y'all be, man. Y'all be on some goofy shit. You know what I mean? So, you guys, a lot of you guys are in your feminine energy, and you're trying to date feminine woman. This is not gonna work. You know what I mean? That's basically like, unless she's a lesbian or some shit like that. But yeah, man, like, every dude that I've seen that's quote unquote, toxic or whatever, he gets called toxic or, a bad boy, but he doesn't ever get called holeless. All right, they always got hoes, no matter what they're doing. You feel what I'm saying? Like, they always got hoes. You feel me? Like, just look at the toxic dude. His ex is always, wanting him. Or I know some of you guys have probably dated some chicks, and it's like they refuse to block their quote unquote toxic ex. Come on now. Like, I remember I was dating some chick. I was still learning about shit at this time, but I was dating some chick, and she was definitely emotionally moved by her ex, so she was clearly not over him. But she was like, oh my god, like, my ex keeps sending me like these mean messages, and she was like crying. She was like, I was like, man, shut the fuck up. But at the same time, I was like, yo, just leave him. She was like, well, like, I mean, I left him and everything, but like, I was like, so block his number. But like, I don't want to block his number. I mean, do you guys have a kid together? No. So like, why don't you block his number? Because she's still, she's leaving that door open because she's still into him, right? That crying and all that other shit. Like, chicks like that emotional up and down and shit like that. You see what I'm saying? Like, when I was my most toxic, bro, I don't know. It wasn't really intentional either. But when I was my most toxic, because like, just friend groups were just pulling out of nowhere and just like, finding me and shit. But when I was my quote unquote most toxic, bro, it was like, I used to like look up different stuff, like, okay, how to keep chicks away from you, and like, how can I go to the grocery store without, choosing signals. And I was trying everything. Like, I was trying to stay away from chicks because they were just sensing that energy, like, yo, he got chicks. Like, you have a different aura when you're dealing with chicks. You just do, versus if you haven't. So, for example, if a chick meets you for the first time, she could tell if you're dealing with other women, right? Or if you haven't dealt with a woman for a while, they could just tell by your energy, and that'll be a big factor in the beginning. Because a lot of you guys, you might have not touched grass in a minute. You might not have seen a chick in a minute. You might not have gotten play in a minute. And you get around another chick, she's gonna be like, oh yeah, yeah, he's very outcome dependent, and he's just too desperate. You'll have that energy. Versus, you got 3 chicks lined up. You already hit or whatever, and you have a chick after. Yeah, you have a chick you're gonna go see after the date. You're gonna have a way different energy. Like, I remember, I went on this one date, right? And I was gonna go see a girl afterwards, right? But I was on this date, and I was like, all right, yeah. So like, I'm gonna go home, and that chick was like, no, like, why can't I like come over? Like, I want to ride in your car, like, I want to ride in your car and all this stuff. And I was like, damn, now I gotta cancel the other date. So fuck it. So then I had to cancel the other, seeing the other chick because she wanted to see me, but she could sense that energy of lack of desperation. You see what I'm saying? But anyways, that is basically my opinion of why women like these toxic or bad boys. Obviously, like I said, the emotional up and downs and stuff like that keeps them more interested and not bored or whatever. But in order to be that person, like, the real key to all this stuff is the quote unquote bad boy, the quote unquote toxic dude is not really a bad boy or toxic dude. A lot of times they're just like a masculine dude, right? Who just doesn't give a fuck because they give a fuck about certain things, and that doesn't include chicks because they've dealt with enough chicks to know that chicks are up and down emotional, and they're not going to stake anything on it. You know what I mean? And they're not going to like, invest emotionally, right? You come off as more nonchalant because game. You see what I'm saying? Like, these toxic dudes just know game, to be honest. That's just what I've seen. Like, usually if a chick calls me like toxic or, oh my god, you look like you're no good, I already know they're going to keep coming back. All right. And that's when you get in those situations like, I remember I met some chick, right? And I was like, all right. I think she drove like 3 hours to come see me, right? And I drove like 30 minutes to go on that date or whatever. But like she drove like 3 hours or some shit. And I remember, you know what I mean? Like we were talking or whatever. And, you know, I was going to go home and I was like, you know what? I'm feeling like a horn dog. How big is your back seat? You know, she had an SUV. I was like, good job bringing the SUV. Listen, you already know what happened, man. Anyways, y'all have a blessed day.